is Thidell, and I'm researcher and educator at what we call the International Institute for Industrial and Environmental Economics at Lund University in Sweden. And I'm going to spend a few minutes to just say a few words about whom we are and why we are here. I've also been asked to speak a little bit about a project some colleagues of mine conducted or were participating in. It's called Cradle to Cradle Islands. But I'll try to keep this as short as possible to leave as much time as possible for the more juicy stuff, and that's what the group has digged up during the week here in Gran Canaria. But before I say anything else, I would start with saying thanks very much for receiving us here at the University of Las Palmas of Gran Canaria and the Institute for Tourism and Sustainable Development. You've been very, taken very good care of us, and Beatrice, she has organized an excellent program for us, taking care of us in all possible ways. So thank you very much for that. We are a small institute at a large university. It's actually the largest university in Northern Europe, but in a small town called Lund. It's in the very south of Sweden. The town is centralized around the cathedral, and we are just behind it. A few keywords about whom we are. And as I said, we're a small institute. We're about 30 in the research staff. We educate some 60 postgraduate students every year. But we have been doing this for a while, so we have an alumni network of almost 700 students from about 80 different countries. What we do in education and also our research, that's policies, strategies, management for sustainable solution. That's our key things. We do it in a multidisciplinary way. We try to be applied, sort of go down to where things happen, where can happen. Collaborative, working with people, and we do it in an international context. I believe that the work of this week is a kind of a manifestation of these approaches. Welcome, please. We do research and education for applying this or giving this a strong analytical tool set, a knowledge base to what will be the future environmental leaders in two different master's programs. One is MESPOM, that's a Erasmus Mundus program, and the other one is Environmental Management and Policy. And we are happy to see all these EMP signs outside the university building. These guys, they are from the EMP program. Where we have the students that have been graduated, you can say that roughly 1/4 in public sector, industry, among research and consultancy, a little bit more in the public sector. Many of them end up in well-known organizations. So, why we are here? And that's because of one course in this master's program that's called Strategic Environmental Development. And what is Strategic Environmental Development? That's really an applied course where we go out and work with real-life laboratories, as we call it, looking at real problems for real clients. In this case, we do this for the university here. It brings an opportunity for students to apply their theoretical knowledge on the real cases. And a number of training objectives here, professional, we got educational objective, and a bit of research in it as well, whenever that's an opportunity. The red dots are places we have been sort of exercised this course in groups, small groups like this, in the past. The stars here, they are where we are this year. So we got one group here in Samsø in Denmark, one group in the up in northern Sweden, one group in Poland, and one group down in Egypt, further down there, and then we are out here. So what they do in Samsø, that's path towards fossil-free island, kind of nice objective. Sälen, that's the largest ski resort in Sweden, and they need a environmental management plan. In Cairo in Egypt, they're promoting solar heaters. And in sub-Saharan Poland, they will look for the feasibility of introducing biogas systems. So I think that's enough on whom we are and why we're here. I'm going to leave recent information material here for if you would like to look for more. Yeah, then what I was asked to say a few words about this Cradle to Cradle Island project. In this talk, I will talk about the project as such, a bit about the Cradle to Cradle company or what they are, a bit about the concept, and a bit about the rationales for closing material loops. By the way, feel free to interrupt and ask questions whenever you like. The project is quickly summarized. It was closed at the end of last year with 22 partners from 6 different countries and included 4 million euros, and it was co-founded by the EU Interreg North Sea Fund. Had a very nice logo. You can find more information about it from these 2 websites. 3 different universities were included, and why it's called Cradle to Cradle is because this organization, EPEA GmbH, and that's an organization that's somewhat a consultancy firm company that's helping companies, organizations. Person Mikael Braungart, who's the director and founder of that organization, and they coined the concept, and they've also the trademark of Cradle to Cradle. But the islands, they are then spread, we'll say, throughout the North Sea, from Shetland, up in Norway, down here to the Strait of Öresund, very close to where we live, and some German and Dutch islands as well. If we look at this list, none of them is really like Gran Canaria. They are smaller, less populated, and deal with quite different kinds of activities than you do here. I believe that the Shetlands, that's the most populated area with some 25,000 inhabitants. So we can think that there are some parallels to find, but not all. Some of them have also set clear sustainability goals long time ago, and they try to implement these goals through projects like these. And their scope are mainly on energy issues, being self-sufficient in energy, promote sustainable materials or unique services such as sustainable tourism. They look at water supply, wastewater treatment, stuff like that. Not that much waste, though. That's something we bring in this project, actually. And you may ask, why islands? We, at the Institute, together with many others, believe that islands are incredibly interesting to deal with. They face many of them anyway, face some very common problems. That's kind of off the mainland or a bit isolated. There could be lack of local resources, such as energy, materials, water, pressure from tourism, sometimes other sectors. And in many cases, there are also, at least for these North Sea islands, a declining population. They need to find new ways of reinventing themselves. Sometimes it's even necessary to bring out a lot of these stuff to the islands, or quite often it's even water could be necessary to bring out. So, being detached from the big systems of the mainland, but also then opportunities to do certain arrangements on the islands. They can serve as very innovative centers. We know that because the distances between people is shorter, it's easier to talk to each other, to see common opportunities and ways to overcome these barriers to the opportunities. In the project, they had these islands as the main goals, as develop innovative systems or system solutions for these areas I mentioned: energy, water, wastewater, and materials. And they want to be self-sufficient in these areas to the year 2030. So they're going ahead. Even if this project was closed last year, they're applying for another one, and that's in the pipeline. But this sort of closeness of the islands, the shorter distances between people, and easier to get a common view of both problems and opportunities. These are some of the key factors that we believe make islands very interesting to look at. Myself, I looked a bit about in Tjörn. It looks like this, a summerish day. Quite beautiful. A little bit on the opportunities for windmills, biogas systems from agriculture. Very much a struggle between local and social entrepreneurs, the tourism sector, and the municipality, the authorities that hindered some of these developments. I shouldn't go too much into details. Reports can be found from the previous mentioned websites. Some groups here, they worked on really fascinating projects on sustainable tourism, by the way, so if you're interested in that, you should look for these reports. Next topic was like the cradle-to-cradle concept, or the business idea behind it. It's the copyright or trademark. It's a methodology from this private business EPA in Hamburg. They have branches all over the world today. But they claim that this framework, then there is a tool to help businesses in their way to redesigning and using renewable and biological technical pathways. They have their slogan, "Waste is food." By looking at industrial systems with inspiration from nature. But it is a business concept behind it. And the principles then in this cradle-to-cradle system, and what they first of all claim that this is the antithesis to waste to energy, like against incinerator plants. And it means a rather aggressive recycling, reuse of material, but also the use of materials that can be recycled and reused. So closing the material loops, using materials that can be used in such closed loops, and renewable energy. And I then would like to ask you, do you find these bullets here very innovative, or you have heard them before, right? So this is, in my view, a way to package a very nice message. And they can probably do that very well in their businesses. It's a little bit, in my view, again, like the Natural Step did some years ago with their system. What they call them, system boundaries or something like that. With them, they went out to help businesses. So the concept or the principle as such isn't very difficult to bring, regardless if we would like to use the words cradle to cradle or something else. But my next point here is like, why should we deal with waste? Why should we deal with waste? We could have a number of altruistic reasons for that, because it's like degrading the local environment. We could get pollutions from incinerators, there could be leachates, rodents, animals, odors, whatsoever, mostly local impacts. And we got a number of waste-related policies we need to follow. But these could be reasons. Some of these pictures, we don't like this littering, or we don't like a number of animals crawling around. This picture is from a landfill slide in the Philippines, a landfill that bursted and then sort of in an avalanche drawn the villages downhill. There could be egoistic reasons for closing the loops. This is from a newspaper. I think the recycling industry can boost the European economy. And in what way? Well, if we look at this, these are the most recent figures I found from a report from the European Environmental Agency. I think it was published last year. Some figures about just the recycling sector in the EU 27. About 4 million employees in the sector some years ago. This has most likely increased a bit since then. During the period from 2000 to 2008, it grew by 7%. It's a rather fast-growing sector. The turnover for the main recyclable materials grew by 100%. And now, and in the end of 2008, it was more than 60 billion euros. Well, it's quite a lot of money, quite a lot of material and so forth, but we notice that there is something to gain from it. There is a wish to see this as a contributor to the European resource needs. I've interviewed producers of plastic flooring recently, and they said we need to go for recyclable material because the virgin material will not be cheaper whatsoever. Should we be competitive, do we need to look for cheaper material? Let's go for the recycling. So there is a need to find that recycled material they can use for new flooring. It's also seen as an opportunity to gear for innovation and new business ideas. And how is this possible? This is something I found in the newspaper back home. Here it says like metal worth billions hiding in our trash. Coining concepts like landfill mining. Instead of going out and dig up iron ore, so why not dig out stuff like that from the landfill? Of course, any iron content there is as high as in the iron ore. In the urban areas, a lot of metals is hiding in tubes that's not used, cables, etc. Here we find a lot of values. Urban forest is another such concept. When paper producers, in particular them doing newsprints or establishing new plants, they prefer to do it very close to the urban areas where it's possible to collect paper, make new paper, print papers, newspapers and send them out, and then it goes around like that. We have a number of these ideas and opportunities there, business-driven. This is something you know of here from Gran Canaria as well. We're collecting oil, vegetable oil. It could be done for various reasons. Promoting, this one is from the UK, I think, that they can burn it for heating a house. It's possible to make biodiesel for fuels, promote it as green energy. But we all know that the main purpose for taking care of the waste oil is that we don't want it in the drain. Of course, it's clogging the drain, right? So the sewage system saves money if the oil is taken out, but that oil that is taken out can be processed and used to another valuable material. This one is an example where not fully treated wastewater is used for irrigation, and it's something that works in particular well in hotter climate with potential bacteria, pathogens. They are killed in the strong sunlight. But when the water is used for that kind of landscaping in the city, for that kind of irrigation, it's a bonus when the water isn't fully treated, when there is still some nitrogen and phosphorus left in the water. So what I'm gearing towards here is that there is this obvious trend that connecting a number of societal loops. When I talk about waste and consumption, it's not just that one could be connected to the water system as mentioned, or between food and food waste transport, or food waste energy, production, innovation, and there should be like arrows back and forth all over this picture. But that is, in a sense, the way to find these opportunities. This is a picture I like because it's an application and it shows how complicated it sometimes can be, even if they've tried to make this as a simplification. It's from a dwelling area and how a flat like that is connected to sort of, here we have a system to take care of hazardous waste, recyclables. It's heating through the wastewater. Waste is going to the incineration plant that is producing electricity and heat for the building. They use heat from the wastewater treatment plant and extract that through heat pumps and heat other buildings. I could take the sludge from the wastewater treatment plant, produce biogas from that, and use that to run the buses in the city. Here is the fraction called the organic waste that's taken out. We need to do that nowadays. So it's taken and sorted out in the household. It can produce fertile soil that could be sold as compost or make more biogas out of it. And it turns out that it gives a number of additional benefits in doing so in the collection system, etc. I don't think I should elaborate too much about that, but all these changes can cause additional benefits that are worth to keep in mind. And how then, so as far as I understand, how this can be, how the actors out there do it in order to find the solutions, make innovations. And it depends, of course, a lot of the local conditions. That's not very surprising. There is a need to find out what actors could be involved, how they could network, and what needs they got, and what benefits they could gain from participating, from changing. They need to figure out what knowledge they have about the potential change, and if there is a need to bring in new competences, what technology is at hand. You notice that many of these changes are not very high-tech things. They could be rather cheap. And then they're sort of together designing the solution. But the key seemed to be that these actors, they need to own the issue, the problem, and the solution. Institutions, such as their different associations, cooperatives, when we're connecting farmers and energy sector, the energy sectors, different associations, etc., they play an important role, both as knowledge transfer agents or information brokers, Sometimes I can go in and participate in funding. So they play an important role. Policies and legal frameworks could be a sparking and important part of this, but it's not necessary. For instance, my experience from what people I worked with in the island Sean in the Cradle to Cradle project, they had to some extent the local policymakers against them, but they could still set up windmills and create energy cooperatives.